Hi guys, what's happening? I hope we're all good today, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Grill podcast. This one's a special one. I'm really happy about this one. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Warwickshire's batter, Sam Hain. Sam, say hello, mate.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Pleasure to be on. Happy to have a little chat, see where it goes. Thanks for having me.
Oh, mate, I'm buzzing. So I was a bit sneaky. I saw Sam had seen one of my stories on my socials, and I thought, all right, that's it. I'm going to be cheeky. I'm going to slide in the DMs. I'm going to ask him, get him. And his response was 200 quid an hour.
You've stitched me up already within the first minute here, haven't you?
And I said, what about 20 quid and a pack of beers? But I love it straight away, a bit of banter.
Straight on the blower. Nah, to be fair, like, You've messaged me on Instagram. Like, Instagram's not something I usually go on, so I usually go on it every, occasionally, just have a little look. Now, I get a few requests. A lot of it's from because I'm on private. I get a few random requests. I just have a little look. I was like, oh, here we go. And to be fair, I don't get asked to do many podcasts. It's just not something I don't know. I tend to do very often. So I'm very happy to have a little chat about, I guess, my cricket. Any advice? Any experiences I've had, happy to share for the next hour and a half, whatever it takes, however long, I don't mind. See where it is.
That's the plan. So we're going to talk. You're going to know Sam inside out by the end of this. We're going to talk about Sam's journey, what he's getting up to at the moment, how his cricket's going at the moment. We'll look ahead to 2022 and what that brings for Sam, and then hopefully you guys listening will get some tips, hopefully, and we will finish with my funny segment. So we've got a couple of segments to finish on, which I hope you like. If you just want to share kind of where it all started, really, and maybe just kind of who you are.
Yeah, I'm more than happy. Well, as you're aware, my name's Sam. I grew up in Australia. I'm a son to two British parents. My mum and dad immigrated to Oz in 98. So I was quite lucky to grow up on the Gold Coast, which is in Australia. Sort of a late bloomer with my cricket. It was never really something that I always set out to do, I guess. I was quite lucky, I guess, with the education I had. I was exposed to all different sports. And it wasn't really until I was 14. So when I was 14, I had an exchange to Scotland at Loretto School, where I went for, I guess, a term. And Michael Powell, who was, I guess, the director of sport up there, with his connections at Warwickshire, sent me down for, I think, effectively a trial. But at 14, mate, I didn't have a clue what was going on. I just thought, yeah, right, why not? We'll go down to Birmingham, 5 hours on the train. I played a game of cricket, went back up to Loretto in Scotland, finished my exchange, and off I went back to Oz. I didn't think anything of it. Carried on playing different sports, etc., and then came over at 15, same thing, but this time flew into Birmingham for 2 months, played cricket in the second team. And at the end of that, Dougie Brown, who was, I guess, the second team coach at the time, obviously with Gilo at the helm, sat me down at Coventry, North Warwick, and said, look, mate, when you finish your education, we'd like you to come over. So again, at 15, 16, I was still quite naive. So I held on that for a while. And then, I graduated 2012. And when I was, I guess, 17, 2013, I moved over. So, but up until that point, Nathan, I was playing all sport. I was playing football, basketball, any sport that my school sort of had to offer, I was playing. It wasn't really until I flew over that I thought, wowzers, it really hit me here that cricket was something that I wanted to do. Up until that, I played it for, I guess, the love, for the fun, on a Saturday and Sunday with my mates. Sort of went from there. I got to be honest, right off the bat, a bit of a snowball effect that who knew that if I never went to Loretto, that I'd still be, who knows where I'd be. I'd probably be back in Oz. But because I went there, 9 years later, I'm still, 13, 7, 8, 9 years later, whatever it is, I'm still here. So bit of a weird journey that I've had, but, one that I'm enjoying nonetheless. So A bit of a funny one, but it's amazing where you end up by just saying yes to a school exchange and opportunity, how it can grow and open different doors that you never thought existed.
Yeah, it's a little bit different to, I guess, your average English cricketer that's come through like the county setup through the age group. And I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, as you said.
Right. It's different because you got to remember that because the seasons are different. So obviously the seasons in Oz are, around the October, November, December, Jan. Like obviously that's when the summer is. So I was still playing and growing up playing cricket in Oz. So it was weird. I'd spend 2 months in the UK during the middle of the year, and then I'd go home and play, under 12. So I played under 12s, 15s, 17s, 19s for my home state, Queensland. And then obviously there came to a point where when I realised cricket was something I wanted to do. Obviously I knew I had a bit of talent, but you're waiting for, I guess, someone to take a punt and give you an opportunity to play, I guess, professionally. And obviously Warwickshire were the ones to do that. And yeah, I'm going to be honest, I stood on that contract for a while. I think it was for a couple of years that I just wanted to wait and see. And if I hated it in the first couple of years, I would have been on the first plane back to Oz, because it was tough. There was definitely moments that were tough where I'm sure we'll talk about down the line. But yeah, it's funny looking back, just thinking that how, as I said before, saying yes to a school exchange can open so many doors. And as you're right, it's not the usual route to professional cricket, but all I wanted was an opportunity and someone to take a chance. And, I'm just grateful that Warwickshire did that and gave me the chance to be able to do so.
Spot on, mate. Yeah. So over here, and then with Warwickshire, made your you list day debut in 2013.
Yeah. Didn't last long.
What happened there?
Oh, mate. To be fair, I actually I still remember it was at Worcester, and I was coming back from a shoulder injury because I actually put my shoulder out 2012 playing touch rugby, right? And 2013, 2013 was my first year, and I remember I think we were battling for injuries or something, and I'd done okay in the second team playing list day. It's not list day cricket, but playing 50 over cricket for the second team. And then an opportunity came up to play obviously a 50 over game, and I knew I was nowhere near ready for it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I still remember that experience was obviously great, like so good, but I just remember being sort of deer in headlights a little bit. Like, I just felt.
How old were you?
I was 17.
Oh,
17, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I just remember everything just happened in fast motion. I remember going up to bat, and then before you know it, it was done and dusted. I was walking back to the pavilion. And that was my first taste, my first and only taste of, I guess, first team cricket for that year. It wasn't until 2014 that I realised that, wowzers, I come up to it, I can do this here. I made my debut in 2013, and then obviously 2014 made my 4-day debut, and then sort of really kicked on from there. And obviously I've never really looked back.
Yeah. So you've had near enough. This will be your 8th season.
Yeah. So this will be my 8th season, I guess, in first team cricket. Granted, it's had its challenges moving over, quite a few, to be fair. Probably, if we're being upfront and honest, the challenges, I reckon, are actually away from the cricket field. Moving halfway around the world to pursue a dream, pursue a goal. Growing up with a support network in terms of having my mum and dad. I've got 2 brothers as well. All my friends that I went to school with. To suddenly leave them after school, first year out, to then be over here, my mood was really affected by how my cricket was going. So if I was scoring runs, everything was dandy. I was on top of the world. How good is this? To then going through I guess, a lull. I just remember that, I had no one to turn to, no support network. And that was really the toughest challenge that I reckon I faced. Like, it was dealing with the highs and lows of what cricket can really throw at you. And I was never really, I guess, in age group cricket, I never really experienced them. Yeah. It's funny, we have a new sports psych, and I remember talking to her about it. Like, my first real challenge was in 2015 when I think I averaged about 10 in the first 5 games. I didn't know what was going on. Like, it was like, have you seen Space Jam where they get the ball and it like sucks out all your, sucks out all the talent? I just thought it was like that. Like, I couldn't quite work out what was going on. And again, I had no one to turn to, no one to ask. That's what it felt like anyway. So, early on, there were the biggest challenges that I faced. But granted, as you get older, you settle in more. You come to terms with it. There's definitely more lows and highs in cricket. You're able just to stay a little bit more level than, I guess nowadays, I can stay a little bit more level than when I was, 18, 19. So quite a few challenges, but, on and off the cricket, the more challenges you face early on, you're able to deal with what cricket can throw at you. So.
It's such an odd sport, isn't it? I did my dissertation. Start of COVID, so 2 years ago, and it was all about mental toughness in cricket, and that what players' kind of perception of mental toughness was, and it was really, really interesting speaking to a couple of lads. I spoke to a lad who he was with Northants and he got released. And the research around like mental toughness is cricket is such a unique sport in terms of you are playing a team sport, but you're on your own.
It's an individual. It's like an individual sport, but within a team.
Yeah, and I think that can really affect people. And you talk about like the lows and the highs and stuff like that. And one of the biggest things that I talk to the people I coach, especially, is you're allowed to have those lows.
Yeah.
You're allowed to have those lows because you don't get the highs without them. And you're allowed to fail. You're allowed for things to go wrong. It's such a big thing, I think.
Well, yeah, because you read. So, like, I look at. I'm talking from personal experiences. I wish I had, from 15, 16, 17, even like those early stages, I guess, of where cricket becomes a little bit more, I say serious, but, you start to, again, I had to grow up quite quickly when I moved over. So I've always been quite independent. I've also always been a deep thinker. I wish I had more failures growing up in, age group cricket, especially. The biggest challenge, as I said before, 2015, when I really couldn't buy a run, and I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know who I could turn to. I didn't know if it was me. I tried changing my technique, really searching for a little nugget of gold to like get me back on track. Whereas I wish I had more failures, because you only learn about yourself when you're failing. You know what I mean? It's all well and good, if you're succeeding all the time, scoring runs, but you're not actually learning about yourself. You're not actually learning what your limitations are. You're not learning which areas you need to improve. So I think it's massive. I honestly think it's massive. Because again, I love talking about cricket, but also the mental side of the game. I think the mental side is so big. I think most of it is what goes on between your ears, to be honest with you. So I completely understand where you're coming from. Mental toughness is massive in cricket. And everyone's different. Everyone has a different upbringing, how they view the game, how they view themselves. Whereas I think you've got to embrace failure. You know what I mean? We had a session today where we were doing some white ball stuff on a spin mat, and it was completely unrealistic. Like, it was spinning massive. And you could quite easily, in a scenario like that, if you keep failing, get really angry, like start blaming the pitch or walk out or whatever it may be. But that's where that's where you really look at yourself and I guess ask yourself the important questions. And that's where you, I guess, granted, that's where you do the most improving, is when you're failing.
Yeah.
As you said, like, you're going to have lows in cricket. There's no way around it. But wowzers, when you get a high, it makes you appreciate them a lot more.
Yeah.
And that's for sure.
Yeah. We'll talk about your highs. We'll get there. One thing I'm quite curious about actually is how much. So we talk about last season as an example. How much has cricket changed in terms of the way it's played and kind of the standards you're setting now compared to when you made your debut 8 years ago?
It's a good question, and it's something I've actually thought about recently. Like, when I first came on, so I was 18. 18 was when I made my 17, 18 when I made my debut, and there was something quite comforting knowing that, one, it was sink or swim. Like, there is an element in professional sport where you're either good enough or you're not. Two, no one knew who I was, so there was no expectation. So the only thing that has changed as I've played more and more cricket professionally is the expectation that I set on myself when it comes down to it. Now, I set a high expectation for myself anyway. Like, every time I go out to bat, I want to be scoring runs. And that can sometimes have a negative impact on how I am, because when it doesn't quite go right, you can find yourself playing things back, overthinking things. And that's quite, it has a negative impact on the next time you go out to bat. Yeah. Whereas the players obviously park it, move on, stay level, all those sort of, I wouldn't say cliches, but, they stay as level as they can. So the more I played, the only thing that has changed for me is the expectation that I put on myself. Now that, I had a good year in 2014, now all of a sudden people start to work you out. People start to do their homework. And then all of a sudden, how are you going to deal with more failure? How are you going to deal with, because the more games you play, the more scars that you're going to have.
Yeah.
When I first came in, there were no scars. I was playing freely. And then you have outside noise. You have people talking about England, this, contracts, different sponsorships, etc., etc. And now I remember that affected me a little bit. People talking about England, what's so-and-so saying? I'm not the only one. This is quite a common thing. The outside noise can sometimes have an overbearing effect on you. So that's all I would say. I wouldn't say that standards changed, anything like that. It's just more, the longer you play, the more scars you have dealing with failure, and for me especially, the expectation that I put on myself. That's how I would.
How do you deal with that? Because you mentioned England.
Mm-hmm.
How do you kind of? I don't want to say.
I'm still dealing with it. Like, it's I've played. I look at myself now. I've nearly played 100 first-class games, and I still get anxious every time I go out to bat. I still,
Really?
100. Yeah, I still get anxious. It's because I care. You know what I mean? Like, it's a fine line between playing with freedom, playing as if you don't care, but you care so much. You know what I mean? It's such a fine, for me anyway, and how I'm wired is, the more I care, the more I go internal. Whereas I've got to play as if I don't care, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's what relaxes you.
Exactly. It's trying to get to that, I guess, that mode. Everyone's got it where you ask, if someone scored runs, or what were you thinking about? No, I wasn't thinking. I was just playing on pure, I was watching the ball hit it. You know what I mean? That there's that subconsciously, you're just watching the ball and you just feeling in just playing the game.
Yeah.
For me, like, how do I deal with it? I've got certain processes that I follow, and these processes are put in place. It might be self-talk. It could be, watching someone in the crowd. It could be whatever it may be. Everyone's different, but they're put in place to stop that anxiety building up, so it doesn't take effect and doesn't take it. It doesn't control you. But yeah, man, I still get nervous. I still get anxious, but it's how you think about those things. It's making sure actually it's a good thing I'm nervous because it's because I care, and it means I'm ready. So the moment I stop getting nervous and anxious before an innings or after, whatever it may be, then I know actually what's going on here. Because after the cricket I have played, it hasn't gone away. So I don't think it ever will. But I'm a lot better now at controlling those emotions than when I was 17, 18. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's experience, isn't it? That's going through the cricket you've gone through, the games you played, the scars that you've had over the last few years, however many years in your career. You learn from that, and I think, to put it frankly, the reason you're in the position you're in now is because you're dealing with those processes really well.
Anyway. But when I mean scar, I don't want to be like real dark and like, but
I know what you mean.
Yeah, there's an element of like, when I mean scars, you could be in the best form of your life and still nick off for zero. Like, that's just the way the game is.
Yeah.
How you are after that innings, say I nick off for zero, or say I have an extended run of 3-4 games and not scoring any runs. How do I continue coming back and being in the same thought, I guess, frame of mind to give myself the best possible chance of scoring runs? And that's what scars is dealing with failure.
Yeah.
Dealing with failure, and how can, I guess, if you are going through a tough time, how am I able to keep coming back? And that's what I guess what it inevitably comes down to is, how do I keep coming back? How do I give myself the best possible chance to get over failure, which are, I guess, scars, and give myself a chance to score runs. Yeah.
When was the moment you had that kind of eureka moment where you kind of, I don't know, it might have been in a game, might have been in training, where you thought, I'm cut out for this. This is, I belong here.
That's a good question. Well, yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know how to answer. I don't think there was a eureka moment as such. Like, I guess 2014, I had, I played, how many games I played? I think 10, 12, I think. Granted, the first time I got a first class 100 was probably a real pivotal moment. I guess I put it this way, I always knew I had talent in terms of cricket, but talent gets you so far. There's a lot of things that goes with talent in terms of work ethic, how you think about the game, etc., etc. There's a whole list. I knew I had talent, but you only really know if you're good enough until you're in that situation, you come through, if that makes sense. So again, my first year, Worcester, played 150 over game, got one out. Following year, I think Belly might have got injured. I can't remember who, or Belly was called up for England or something like that. And I made my debut against Middlesex at home. I think I got 40 odd. And I was like, right, okay. I was happy, stoked. And then it's amazing what a bit of momentum and confidence can do. And then you had just had that inner feeling. It was just like an inner, not fight, but just an inner confidence, a real strong, robust self-belief that actually I am good enough here. And I guess there was a little bit of naivety in that as well. As I said early on, like, you only really know if you're in that situation if you're going to sink or swim. But if you truly believe that you are good enough, then you'll give yourself the best possible chance. granted, there is an element of I could believe it all I want, but until I'm out there in the middle and I'm doing it, there's always some sort of link that's missing.
Yeah.
So granted, I had, a lot of confidence, a lot of belief in my ability, but it wasn't really until I made my debut against Middlesex, got 40 odd, and then a few games later against Northants, got 100. I was like, actually, I am good enough. That was really the first time. And obviously ever since then, that was, as I talked about before, that was a freedom that I played with, because I know there was no scars, no nothing. It was my first year in professional cricket, effectively. And I was just playing with that essence of youth, really.
Yeah.
And granted, it wasn't really until 2015 that cricket really showed me that no matter how high you get, it's always there just to bring you back down to I guess, a level playing field. So, I would say it was probably my first full year in 4-day cricket that I knew I had the belief, but there was obviously, I guess there was an element of when I was actually in the middle that I showcased what I could do. So it just, I guess, reaffirmed what I believed in myself, that I could do it out in the middle.
Yeah. I love that, because I think you talk about that confidence and the momentum and stuff like that. And one of the most important things, I think, for any cricketer, any young cricketer like listening, is just, as I said before, you're allowed to have those failures, but you're allowed to enjoy those successes. And
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like,
you've got to enjoy that.
So I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was just going to say, like, like, there's a reason you fail in cricket, and if we didn't fail, everything would be. You don't appreciate the highs and the highs as much, because I remember. So I'll give you an example, right? So we played Yorkshire. Last year. We won. This is where it's tricky, because it's a right at the start. It's an individual game, but inside a team game. Yeah. It's also very individualized. Now I got a king pair, right, for the listeners. I got a king pair, but we won. So, like, real mixed emotions. Obviously, we won. We still got a chance of winning the championship, but I got more catches than I did runs that game. You know what I mean? So that's where cricket is completely mental.
Oh,
and it was really quite a low period. I was like, this never happened before. I've never really got a king pair. And then 2-3 weeks later, we're lifting the championship trophy after beating Somerset final day. And I've had a total disparity of emotions there. Obviously, getting a king pair, but winning the game. So I was happy but gutted, because I couldn't really contribute. And then we played Hampshire. Which I don't think I got any runs, and we lost. And we thought, we're a chance of not winning the cup here. So then beating Somerset, and the pure ecstasy that happened when we won, you can't recreate it. I can't really describe it. It's hard to put into words. So over those 3-4 weeks, just the array of emotions right there is what professional sport is all about. And until you go through those lows, you never really appreciate the highs that this game has to offer. And it's sport, and it's not just cricket; it's any sport. And that's why there's nothing quite like it.
Nothing beats it.
No, but you're right though. And like any young cricketer, you're going to have lows, but it's how you think about those lows. It's how you keep coming back. It's how you want to make in the nets. It's how you. The only way you're going to improve is exploring the parts of your game that you're not quite good at. Not being afraid to make mistakes, not being afraid of what it looks like. Because that's the only way, inevitably, how you're going to get better and how you're going to improve. So yeah, it's funny. You just made me think about last year, how in space of 3 weeks I had 4 different emotions. It's it's funny thinking about.
It's probably quite nice to think about as well, to be fair.
It is nice. Like, I don't know who I said it to, but winning the county champ was something that I always wanted, but never thought it was really in my grasp. Not yet. So to do it last year was, I don't know how we got onto this, by the way, but to do it last year was, I still pinch myself, still smile at the thought that it actually happened. And especially after losing to Hampshire, as I said before, losing to Hampshire, because obviously Hampshire were in with a chance as well. So yeah, awesome. It was awesome, to be fair. But yeah, anyway.
I was going to say, what was better, winning the 4-day champ or the Blast?
For me, probably winning the Blast. No, winning the championship. Sorry. So actually, Ollie Hannon Dolby and I, big fast bowler. We arrived at the club 2013, the year after we won it in 2012. And for those, 2013, 2014, 2015, Warwickshire had a real core group of players. Your Bells, Trotts, Jopra, Westwood, Ambrose, Clark, Barker, Wright, Jeets. A real core group of, players that did really good things. They kept talking about 2012 and how tough it is to win a championship, how special it is. And it wasn't really until, I got a bit older. I say I got a bit older, but really started to take notice of actually how tough 4-day cricket is. And probably stopped thinking about my own performance, started thinking about the team performance. And coming back on just thinking about last year, it is so tough, mate. This is where we talk about the individual game, but inside the team game. Individually, you have highs, lows during a 4-day season. But over the course of the season, you just hope that people, if I don't score runs, Sibbo will score runs, and you what's the word? Different people put their hands up at different times.
Yeah.
For it to come down to the final game against Somerset after a long season, it was so, so, so special. I can't really put it into words. I haven't really got the vocabulary to put it into words, how tough it is over a course of the season.
Yeah.
To, win a 4-day championship. It is so tough.
It's a real slog, isn't it?
It's a real slog. Because, for a batting group, say, we'll talk about batting. So for a batting group, you have, I might go for a run of games where I do well. My teammate down the other end might be struggling. Then it might flip. I might be struggling for a few games. And it's just ebbs and flows of how a season pans out. But to do it the way we did, I'm laughing now because obviously we're thinking about 2022 here, but it is so tough. But you don't really realise that till you do it. And that's just what makes it extra, extra special. And I never thought it was possible, not now, maybe in a few years' time, because at Warwickshire now, we're a bit like 2012. We have a group of players around about the same age, all wanting the same thing. And it's amazing what you can do and what you can achieve when everyone's pushing towards a common goal. So, we've done it once, but I guess the real challenge is, can we build something at Warwickshire now where this group of players can go on a little run? But, only time will tell. We'll see what happens.
I mean, Red Bull cricket over here is really, really competitive. And it has been for a while. I mean, my closest county is Essex. I kind of grew up as an Essex fan, and they've done all right. They've got a really good. But I think then they've got a really good setup in terms of, this is the way we're going to play. These are the people we're going to pick, and the balance of their side is quite good. But yeah, I think it's interesting because you look at the Red Bull setup over here and how competitive it is, and then we go to England and it's been a bit iffy. But what I'm really intrigued to find out. Okay, so let's say you haven't scored many runs, and you're off to, let's say, I don't know, Lancashire. You're off to play Lancashire, and you've got potentially Anderson, Sakib Mahmood, whoever else they've got, Parkinson with a bit of wristies. How do you get into your mind to prep for a game like that? So say, what would you go through a couple of days out before a game to prep for a game?
Yeah, well, first of all, you've got to look at what you're going to come against. So if I'm playing at Old Trafford, so I know it's going to be not a used wicket, but it's going to be turgid. Like it's Parky's going to come into it.
Mm.
You're going to look. You're going to look at what you're going to come against. So Essex, spicy. You know what I mean? So first of all, I'm looking at what potentially I'm going to be coming up against, and then try and work out a game plan, I guess, to combat anything I might face. So 2 days out, as I say, I usually have a lighter session 2 days out, but do a lot more hitting a day out. And then I'm just going through different scenarios. So, you know, if I feel like I'm facing Parky, try and face some leg spin, work out, right, this is my game plan if he comes around the wicket, over the wicket, and then just go through different scenarios. But I don't do anything, you know, different from the next person. You know, I haven't got any secret recipe. I'm just trying to get myself and make sure my basics are there to bat a long time. I guess that's the best way I can put it. I'm not doing anything different. I'm just saying, right, this is what I know works. I just want to reinforce that. And then when it comes to game time, it's just trying to get into the battle, trying to get into the game as quickly as possible. And I just know, you know, my natural skill will take over. It's just trying to get into that frame of mind as quickly as possible. And I guess that is transferred from how you do your training. But it's trying to I guess, make net sessions almost tougher than what you might face in a game, if that makes sense.
How'd you do that?
So if I'm facing claw, there's guaranteed you there's time for, you know, fluffing where you want to feel good, you want a few half volleys, you know, a few cuts, few balls, whatever. But you know, if I'm facing claw and I want to be challenged, you might get the new pellet out, might come off 18 yards. Really try and make it uncomfortable. And I guess in a way, when you make it uncomfortable, that's when it can evoke emotion. It might, you know, you can feel your heart rate going. You're right, calm yourself down, and you know what I mean. So try and make it like a game as much as possible. You know, it's all well and good, you know, hitting half volleys and exactly in that session. There's definitely an element of that, but you try and make it as uncomfortable as possible. Because then you get into a game scenario, you're like, right, I faced this yesterday or a couple of days ago. It's a lot easier than that. Granted, not always the case. You know what I mean? I can understand how it might come across. But you're almost trying to make your net sessions or your training tough. So when you get into a game, I guess you're able to deal with anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, throwing yourself into the deep end, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then it makes you psychologically, it makes you feel more comfortable when you're in that difficult situation in the middle of a game, I guess. Yeah.
So as I say, like granted, on the morning of, I'll just get, you know, a few throws. I don't want to have any work that I do. It's a couple of days out. Morning of, I just want to feel good. I just want to be in a good place because I know that will give me the best possible chance scoring runs. Because I know I've done the work, you know. But not just a couple of days out. You know, you're doing the work now. You know what I mean? We're doing the work now, and then hopefully that will blend in, and the work that you do will blend in over time. But I guess what I'm trying to say, you're trying to make your net sessions, trying to recreate your net sessions to much, I guess, what you'll face in a game. Trying to make it uncomfortable. Trying to evoke an emotional response when you're having a net session. Put something on it. You know. Whether that's, you know, if you get out, there's a consequence, whatever it may be. I guess that's the closer thing, because you can't recreate, I guess, a game scenario no matter how hard you try. Obviously, you can get close, but the only way you get better and the only way you learn about yourself is putting yourself, as you said, in the deep end, and seeing how you deal with it, how you respond.
Yeah. I tried the Justin Langer technique of, if you get out, batters rotate, and oh my word, the look I got from some of the girls, they were fuming.
Yeah, well, we did that yesterday. We had a T20. So we had a T20 we had a T20 like session,
Mm.
and I was so two batters in, and I was waiting, and then if one of the batters got out, we swap. But then you know what the lads are like even probably the girls to some extent. Like I'll hit one, and they're keeping score about no one. Well, hang on a minute, that's in front of square, and then all of a sudden, like people's emotions. I guess that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to evoke emotion. And then you got lads, toys going everywhere. No, it was 6. No, it's out, and it's just like, oh my god. But that's what it's designed to do. You know what I mean? Like these, I guess, training sessions. These are what they're meant to do. You'll never be able to recreate, I guess, a game and what happens in a game. But you try and make it uncomfortable. Try and get people out of their comfort zone. That's the only way, I guess, you're able to learn and you're able to improve.
Oh, I love it. The pros is just like the anyone else just getting competitive with the training. I love it. That's
yeah. I love it. I do enjoy it, but there's obviously times where I don't. So it's definitely a fine balance. It's definitely a fine balance. But as I say, you might not enjoy it at the time, but who knows? You might see the benefit from those sessions down the line when you least expect it. It's all hindsight in those sorts of things.
Yeah. 2022 then. What is 2022 going to bring for Sam Hain?
Wowzers.
Runs.
Well, wow. What's 2022 going to bring? Well, this is where I'm going to be honest. I don't set goals for myself. I don't set numbers or anything like that. I very much like staying in the present. I very much like staying in the here and now. I don't set goals. I don't think about the future too much because that's when I get a little bit anxious because it's so far away. For 2022, I granted, I want to play for England. Now, the challenge I have done in the past is wanting to play for England so bad and then forgetting about the here and now and, my day-to-day stuff, scoring runs for Warwickshire, training hard, all these little things that give me the best possible chance to score runs. And then if I score runs, these things will happen. Now, for me, I'm all about what I can control. I can control my diet, my fitness, my sleep. Switching off is massive, switching off from the game, and how hard I work. And for me, that's what I want to continue for 2022. I've probably not the answer you wanted or you thought I might give, but I very much know if I focus my attention on those things, then the outcomes will happen. I will score the runs that I know I can. I will win games for Warwickshire, and you'll get the things that I know can happen if I do those little things, and then effectively it's playing for England. So for 2022, as I just said, I just want to give myself the best possible chance to be out in the middle and score runs for Warwickshire, no matter the format, T20, 50 over or 4-day cricket. That's all I want to do, is win games for Warwickshire effectively. And then whatever happens from that, then as I say, it's out of my control. So yeah, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't leading to.
No, it's very much like
it's difficult, isn't it? It's because I think for you, it's. I wouldn't say it's a great. It's there, and it's a lot of people have spoken about it and stuff like that, and you said that that's the goal is to play for England. So yeah, it's always difficult, and I think it's probably more difficult as well where England are going through this transition of, that possibility is probably becoming ever more present. But what I like is that you said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to control what I control, and like switching off, I think is a massive one because people I coach even play so much cricket and so much sport, and you need that time to just just park it up and
Switch
put it
off, go play golf, go for like whatever it may be. Give it, because it's dangerous for me anyway. Like I remember I really struggled to switch off from the game, and you know I still go through it now a little bit. Is a day before the game, I feel myself just staring at the ceiling. I can't sleep, so I'm just thinking about batting tomorrow. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and the danger with that, you feel yourself overthinking. Before you even go out to bat, you've played your innings about 5 times. You're like, hang on a minute, not healthy. So switching off is massive, absolutely massive. You know, people might be different, but for me anyway, switching off from the game is pivotal because it keeps you fresh. It keeps you fresh. It keeps you, I guess, mentally fresh more than anything. Yeah.
What do you do to switch off?
So well, you haven't heard my little pup bark just yet, but she's been a godsend. Taking her for walks, whatever it may be. Love my golf. You know, little things like that. You are restricted a little bit being in the Midlands. Obviously, I grew up 2 minutes away from the beach, but you are a little bit restricted in what you I guess you can and can't do. But you know, it could be anything. You know, I'm still not quite into my football as much as all the lads really enjoy it. I still struggle a little bit, but it could be anything. But for me, it's golf. But the issue is that for me especially is that I could be playing golf, but my mind could drift back to cricket.
Yeah.
But you know, it's even, you know, the mates you have. So I'll go for dinner, and you find yourself still chatting about cricket. But the difference between talking about cricket and thinking about cricket and really, you know, thinking about, like, it's, I don't think you can fully switch off, but you can definitely switch off to a certain extent, and I guess that can refresh you as well. But it is tough. It is tough. I still haven't quite mastered it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I still struggle. It's life because it's your job. Like, you know what I mean? It's effectively, it's your job. Like, I get paid to score runs. Granted, there's more around that, but black and white, that's what it is.
Yeah, it is.
And when it's not quite going well, you do struggle. You struggle to switch off. But I guess that's a secret there. How do the best players switch off? To keep them fresh, to keep them from I guess stopping overthinking about things. I guess that's the real secret there. The best players are able to switch off, keep fresh, stay fresh, and I guess able to get themselves out that rut a little bit more. But yeah, for me, I after that long winded answer, golf is my escape. Golf is my real escape, where I'm able just to focus my mind on something else.
I'm going to ask quite a controversial question here. Best golfer, worst golfer at Warwickshire?
Best golfer used to be Tim Ambrose. So Timmy's one of them blokes who used to be good at everything.
Right.
Football. I remember we played one year. Obviously, he's retired now, but we played squash, and he was unbelievable. So good. Golf as well. We have an annual golf trip to Scotland every year, but it's obviously gone international, so we're at Ireland now.
Oh.
And he ran away with it. Great golfer, one of the best. But obviously now it's a little bit tricky. I would have said Ed Pollock, but he's another one that's gone. So there's a few. Obviously, there's myself. I rate myself, to be fair.
Good lad.
I didn't want to say it till now. Ollie Hannon-Dolby is decent, but I've seen him blow up a few too many times. Struggles to get out of the bunker. If there was no bunkers on the golf course, I would say Ollie. Worst golfer. Oh, mate, it's tricky to say worst golfer because you get lads who have just picked up a set.
Oh,
and, you know what I mean? you get a feel they've never held a club before. But in terms of avid golfer who's just terrible,
there's got to be one.
Yeah, I was going to say Sibley. But I don't know if he'll like me saying that, but we'll say Sibbo. But then again, I don't know if he plays enough. Yeah, I'll say Big Fridge. But I don't think he really cares, does he?
Oh, I love it. There's got to be one. I'm terrible at golf. I remember we had a golf day, and one of the hottest days of the year. And I cannot play golf. I'm a bit of a bandit. If it goes right, then it's pure
Yeah.
luck. It's not any skill or talent. And one of my mates has hit one off the tee, hasn't got past the ladies' tee, and he's just thrown his club into the trees in anger. But the club's stuck in the tree. So our local golf clubs, there is a club just still on the tree on the 13th hole, and his face dropped. He's like, I've just put a golf club up a tree. But
I've seen that a few times. I said to you about Ollie and bunkers, right? So like Ollie will speak for himself. He's not the best out of the bunkers. I've seen him struggle about 3 or 4 times to get out of the bunker, and then I'm ready to. There's like a lip, so I'm ahead of him, and I'm like ready to like play my shot. I look back and I just see sand going everywhere. He's obviously in the bunker, swinging out of anger because he can't get the ball out. And then all of a sudden he picks up, we crack on. But I definitely know what you mean. Golf is one of them sports that can get you really frustrated.
Oh yeah, again.
But then on the 18th hole, mate, you might chip in, or you might play a cracker, or you might sink a 20-footer putt or something, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And think, whoa, I've cracked it here, and it just keeps you coming back.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it. That's why I really love it, because it's similar to cricket in a sense. Although, I'm happy facing 80 miles an hour, but you put the ball still stationary, I struggle to hit it. Like, how does that work? But yeah, golf is definitely one that I really, really love away from cricket, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think as well, like the social side of it, like you can go with a couple of mates, 3-4 your afternoon or morning, whatever it is, and have a chat and do something.
I say to my missus, I say, I obviously have to ask her. I say, look, so I'm playing golf, and she'll, what time will we be back? And it's never 4 hours, like depending on how long you play for, but it's never a 4-hour round, because you go there. It's an all-day event for me anyway. I want to stay, have a few beers, bit of lunch afterwards, and it's awesome, mate. It is so good. You know what I mean? We have these corporate events where people obviously pay a fee to come, Warwickshire, whatever it may be, and complete strangers at the start of it. But by the end of it, after 4 hours, you get to know them, able to chat, different experiences, different experience, what they do, what they go through, etc., and you're able, obviously, you're walking out after the 18th, having a real good day with, 4.5 hours ago, you didn't know who he was. So yeah, real good. I really, really enjoy
it. I just wanted to talk the 100.
Yeah.
You were with the Manchester Originals last year. Mm-hmm. How was that? How was that as an experience?
As an experience, good. Obviously didn't play. I played one game, rain affected, got cut short. It's interesting. I think the 100 as a concept, for me, as an aspiring, I guess, cricketer, is fantastic for men and women. You look at the women's game now, it's, I guess, getting the recognition that it probably should be getting in terms of numbers, viewership, etc. The women's game is growing, which is great. We were watching the women, the crowd that they were getting was awesome.
Yeah.
So as a whole spectacle, the 100 was really, really good fun. I would have loved to have played more, 100%. But I guess for me to get away from Edgbaston for, I don't know how long it was, a month, 2 months, whatever it was. It was actually quite nice to spend time with different coaches, learn off them, different players that obviously you play against in the county setup, to now talk to them about, what their thought process is. It can only add value to your own game.
Yeah, 100%.
Like obviously, yeah, for being honest, I would love to have played more, because
Mm.
if you do well on the 100, it opens up different doors, different franchises, etc., etc. But it's just the way the cards were dealt. I missed out in the draft, which was obviously disappointing. So I thought, I'm going to have to do well on the blast here to try and get a replacement or wild card, etc. Which I knew what I had to do. Granted, I started well. Got a replacement for, I think, Wayne Madsen. I think had a hamstring or something. So I came in for him. Who's a gun, by the way. I think he's really, really good. But yeah, like 100 as a whole is a fantastic competition. Obviously, you're going to get the people out there who think it's the worst thing since sliced bread for English cricket.
Yeah.
But I'm just giving my view as someone who wants to play international cricket. I want to be playing against the best players, and showcasing what I can do against the best players. And I think the 100 is a great platform for that. So not just for me, but for the whole game, for English cricket in general, for men and women. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I think so. I work at Lords as a coach in the MCC, and
yeah,
I was lucky enough to be in and around Lords when it was starting, and we were there when the Spirit were getting all their kit and like the trade, like the photo press days, whatever. And even for someone like me, like I was walking around and horrible news today about Shane, but literally shoulder to shoulder with Shane Warne, and we had kids on holiday camps, and they were able to watch like the men and the women training. And what I loved was the kids were. It didn't matter who was on there. Could have been a man and his dog, but they were just so intrigued. And even with the women's game, they were so intrigued at watching. Oh, that's Heather Knight, and I think it's been fantastic.
Been good. Like, is it totally? Obviously, the question that I would ask is: it totally different to the T20 Blast? Like, if they pump the same money into the 100 into the Blast, would it? Are they two completely separate comps? I just, the general feeling that I get is the 100 is just a condensed Blast, if that makes sense. You're getting the best players from the heart from T20 and put them into a competition.
Yeah.
But with that, you're getting some big names, overseas players, big name overseas players. So for me, I want to be playing against, as I said before, I want to be playing against the best players. You never know what doors that might open if you do well. Not just, as I said before, not just for me, but for men and women. So that's the way I view it. Again, it was disappointing not to play more, but as I say, the draft is just around the corner. If I get picked up, great. If I don't, I know what I need to do in order to get picked up. And obviously, whatever avenue I find myself down, and the writing's on the wall, so I just got to go out and do it. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But no, I really enjoy the 100. But I'm also very wary of what those who are against it and the points that they make as to why. So it's a very, again, like a lot of things in cricket, it's a very fine line.
Yeah. I've got a couple of quick fire questions. Role model growing up, favorite player growing up.
Favorite player growing up. This is a tricky one because I grew up in Oz, so a lot of cricketers I grew up watching were Aussies, effectively. I remember watching Ponting, Clark, Matt Hayden, Justin Langer. Over here, odd one, Marcus Trescothick.
Oh, really?
Was someone I really like. I remember watching him take down Shoaib Akhtar, who was bowling the speed of light. I was like, wowzers. And then, funny enough, like, who knew down the line, I found myself playing against him.
Yeah.
When it was obviously at Somerset. But I would say Ricky Ponting was someone I looked at. I remember being on school holidays and just watching him. It was so good, obviously, because international cricket was on peak time for us. And I would just sit and watch when Ponting bang, and just studied it, like just the way he plays, how he was.
Yeah.
One of the legends of the game, real legends of the game. I'll probably say, yeah, my idol was probably Ricky Ponting.
Yeah.
Probably not just me. It'd be interesting to think who yours would be. But for me, growing up, that was the one I was like, wowzers, so good.
Mine was actually Ian Bell.
Really?
Yeah. I remember my first ever kind of experience of watching cricket was the 2005 Ashes.
Yeah.
And then that kind of got me. I remember coming in from school, Channel 4 was on, sat in front of the TV, watch it. And then as I got a little older, it was always Ian Bell. I'd have his bats. So wherever he moved to, he was with Adidas, and he moved to someone else. Honestly, he was
Adidas in Persa. I remember that. Yeah.
I had that stick. And when I remember breaking it, and heartbroken. 15-year-old.
You like smiling when you talk about it. It brings back the same thing. Like similar, you said Channel 4. You finished school, Channel 4. And you just it's amazing that the memories that you remember. Like similar. Just on the weekends. No, I'm not doing anything. Like Test cricket is on. I want to watch. Yeah. And you just find yourself mesmerized. Yeah, you just find yourself mesmerized by, especially that. Like obviously we're talking about Aussie, but Aussie and England, that 05 Ashes. But for me, it was that team in Australia where, as I say, you had Langer, Hayden, Ponting, Clark. Obviously, Caddick was in around that team as well. And then obviously you had God rest his soul, late Shane Warne, Glenn McGrath, all these good players, wowzers.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
I mean, that's what made me fall in love. And yeah, mate, Ian Bell. Can't even describe it, mate. I'm so jealous you get to play with him. What a bloke.
Very, 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 like, it just seemed everything. I don't want to say everything just seemed easy, but I still remember, testament to Belly, he was always, ever since I arrived, he was always first in, last to leave the net. And that never left. So even when he was coming towards the back end of his career, he was still first in, last to leave.
Yeah.
I guess that regiment, he knew by that stage what had worked for me was going to outwork anyone. Didn't matter whether or not he was still trying to play for England. He wanted to outwork, and that's why I said he was hit more balls than anyone, and real work ethic, which, as you say, mate, like one of the nicest cover drives you ever see. But I remember watching some of the innings he's played live and just thinking, wowzers, he's on a different level here.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
I can see why, yeah.
He was the one growing up.
Anyone else or just Belly?
Trying to think.
KP, Strauss, Cook.
I mean, I see. I loved KP. Was always one that you just had to kind of stand.
Change the face of.
Yeah, like Cookie, another one. Like obviously being an Essex boy, saw a lot of Cook. Another one actually was Sangakkara. So
we're just going England Aussie. There's obviously No,
but so when I was 6, Sri Lanka were touring. I can't remember when it was, but I was young, and they were playing Essex in a 3-day friendly, 4-day friendly, and you could go on the ground at lunch, tea break, and at that point the Sri Lankan boys were netting.
Yeah,
you walk up to these guys and watch them net. Like here, you were allowed to do that, and Sangakkara and Jar Warner were hitting, and they take the time to speak to you and say hello and stuff like that. And I just remember watching him and thinking,
mate, yeah,
you're proper, you are. And when he came,
you're proper.
Yeah, you're proper. But yeah,
I had a similar. I remember doing short leg to 2, Sangakkara and Shivnarine Chanderpaul.
Oh.
And like Jeets, who's, oh my God, like standing at short leg to Jeets. was like, it was proper. It was proper. But watching Sangakkara, I remember playing at the Oval when Sangakkara was playing for Surrey.
Yeah.
And as you say, mate, like I just remember it was Sangakkara at the Oval and Chanapur at Edgy. And Jeets was obviously bowling really well. Had Barks' foot rough, turning. And like, mate, these players, I was like, wowzers, I'm in the presence here. I'm watching. And in a way, it's weird because obviously I want Jeets to get them out, but I don't because
you want to see him back.
Firsthand, like Sangha and Chanapul bat and play with their absolute, like, just play with the bat like this wide. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was so good, and so like moments like that, like you can't put a price on.
No.
It's so good.
I spoke to I can't remember who it was. It was one of my other episodes. I turned up for work at Lord's. This was midway through the blast, and walked through the gates, and it sounded like gunfire. Genuinely sounded like gunfire. Walked around the corner, and I just see this MRF blade just, and I was like, "That's the Villiers." Just stood there, 5 meters away, just panning balls everywhere. And
that's what they say. That's what they say in it. Like it's the top echelon players, just a bit like golf. The top echelon, they just get a different sound when they hit the ball. It's just a different noise, as you say. There's just a different crack.
Some party everywhere for like 15 minutes, and then he just left, and I was like, "Oh, what a person!" But
I remember asking about. I don't know who it was, but I was like, "What's the Villiers like?" I think it was one of the Middlesex boys. Obviously, he was at Middlesex for a period of time, and apparently, like, I was just asking about what does he do in training. Like, obviously, you see his scoops and all that sort of thing. And he was like, mate, he doesn't do any of that in training. He's literally all about basics in training. Just keeps his basics, buff, right?
Yeah.
I'm moving forward and back, getting in a nice, stable position. I'm just playing.
Yeah.
But then, like, I see him, you watch him in the game, he's scooping, he's getting on one leg. And, like, so you're telling me he doesn't practice that? There's got to be an element where he's got to practice it. But, like, he was just saying that, mate, like, I watched him in the nets and he's just literally, not forward A-bang, but he's literally just trying to get in a nice stable position.
Yeah.
And he's just playing. So you see what I mean? I was like, so these top echelon players, they're just in a different league of their own, aren't they? Like, it's so funny you say. I just brought me back to being at short leg again. Like, come on, Jeets, get him out here. And then, like, deep down, I was like, don't get him out here. I want to watch him. I want to watch him batch a little bit longer.
Lead me on to two similar questions, actually. Best player you played with and best player you played against.
Well, again, I've been quite blessed walking into a dressing room, as I said early on, with the players that we had. One player that I guess I played with, obviously, you had your Bell and Trott. They were the two. You said before, Belly, unbelievable average, mid-40s, 120 tests, whatever it is. Trotty was someone that I never really looked up to till I arrived at the club. He was probably the person I probably looked up to most when I arrived, because he was someone that didn't make his debut till 28 when he obviously played for England. And I guess you always I guess connect with someone more who shows, say, vulnerability, but I'm not sure that's the right word. But obviously with what happened in Australia, obviously when he came home to the UK, I guess when that happened, I don't know what I saw or what happened, but I just felt like that, someone like Belly, everything happened so naturally. Obviously, he worked harder than everyone else, but someone like Trotty, I just remember watching innings that he played and thinking, wow, he's so good. Effortless. But again, so methodical in the way he worked.
Yeah.
Each session had a purpose. And like me, like obviously with what happened, I guess I was able to look at him and be like, wow, he's human here. And like I was able to, like, I don't know, look at and connect with, because that's what something like that happens. I don't really know how to put into words, but I guess as soon as someone shows a bit of vulnerability, you're able to connect with, on a human level. Not to mention he's probably one of the best players that I have ever played with, because if I remember asking Gilo, I don't know who asked Gilo, but someone asked Gilo if there was ever someone who you'd want to bat for your life, who would it be? And he said Trotty. He was the wall. He was the number 3 for England. He was just so good. But you can't take away from Belly either. Probably I was quite blessed that Belly, it was like, obviously they chopped around, but Belly trot 3-4, and obviously I used to come in at 5. So I was
dream, mate.
Watching, yeah, oh, mate, well, it was. But like, again, it was for my learning, especially watching those two, how they went about it. Like the disappointing thing for me is I should have talked to him more. I should have asked questions. But that's just me. I just didn't. Because I guess I was scared, nervous how they might react, if they'd be open to sharing their experiences, and a little bit's obviously on me. But I just remember watching their nets, how effortless it obviously all was for them. So I would, after all that, I would probably say Bell and Trot were probably the 2 best players that I ever played with from a batting front.
Yeah.
And you asked me best player I played against.
Yeah, best you played against, yeah. Or I'll say best you played against, or someone that you'd love to play with currently who's playing in world cricket, if there's someone that you'd love to share a changing room with.
Oh, someone I'd love to share a dressing room with. It's a great question. It's a really good question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think here. Obviously, you have your Coleys, you have your Smiths, you have your Warners. Probably for me, Kane Williamson, probably someone that I'd love to see how he goes about things.
Yeah.
He was at the Phoenix. I think he might have been injured, so I remember asking a few of the boys at the Phoenix, what's Williamson like? And he's, from what I heard, he's very similar to how I talked about earlier. He loves failure. If he has a bad net, he loves that. He enjoys it because it's the only way you can learn from it. It's the only way you can pose yourself questions. And if you pose yourself the right questions, you're able to learn from them. So he's someone I'd love to just like be a fly on the wall in terms of how he thinks about the game, how he trains, because he's someone I just love watching bat. Like out of the big 4, he's probably someone that I really enjoy watching. That's for sure. So I'd probably say Kane Williamson.
Yeah. I asked my Instagram followers for a couple of questions. The first one, of course, it was going to be. So I'll give him a shout out because he's moaning me. I haven't given him a shout out yet. So AD O'Brien, the Bat Doctor.
Bat
Doctor. He's great, mate. He fixes bats. He's sorting
out. To be fair, I think I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, well, I bet you do.
The bat. Do I follow
AOB
him?
Bat Doctor. But
anyway,
he asked. He said, "Can I have multiple sticks?" So that was the first thing he asked. Which doesn't surprise me because he just wants all.
Can I have multiple stick?
Yeah.
Stick. Not one. I want multiple.
Yeah, multiple. Can I have at least 5 Grey Nick sticks, please? I Archie, one of the Suffolk lads, Archie, asked about mental struggles with cricket, and I think we've spoken quite a bit about that, which is handy.
What was his question?
He said, did you have many struggles as a cricketer, through like your confidence and stuff like that? But we've spoken quite a lot about that. This one's quite funny. James Thompson, your analyst.
Yeah, Tomo.
He sent me a question and he said, why on earth did you take your cap out with you after you won the championship?
Why on earth did you take your cap out? Oh, mate. Well, yeah, so we won the Champo, and obviously, the thing with, like, we won the Champo, right? And this is what we're talking about, the highs and lows. That whole night was a blur, obviously, because I was, intoxicated. I was a bit pissed. But that night went by so quickly. Before you know it, was 4:30 and I was in bed. But all I remember, I'm going out of my cap. This moment might never, ever happen again. I just remember being out in a club with my Warwickshire hat on. And then every 2 minutes, the bouncer was like, oh, mate, you can't wear a cap. And I was like, mate, just won the Champo. Like, of course I'm going to wear it. You know what I mean? Like, poor Robbo, our coach, our head coach. Robbo played for 16 years or whatever it was, professional. Never won the championship. And then, the cool thing is that you have lads, 21, 22, grew up in the academy, playing their first year of professional cricket. No matter who it is, that group of players, that is so, so special. We've only won the championship 8 times since the club was formed. So it just goes to show how special it is.
Yeah.
And this bloke over there can't say I can't wear my Warwickshire cap in the club. Like, get out of here, mate. Obviously, I didn't say that because I wanted to stay there. But I remember passing it round. So I remember putting it on Tomo's head and then grabbing it off, putting it back on mine, putting it to my missus, put on, and then just random people. And I was like, what am I doing? I was proper stressed out. I was like, what if he or she just walks away?
Don't lose it. Yeah.
Tomo, great question, pal.
Yeah, he's a good boy. He was my first ever guest on the podcast.
Was he?
Yeah. He was my first when he was out in Bangladesh. Yeah, brilliant. Top lad. I said I would go for a bit with him. He
loves it, to be fair. He's a brilliant analysis as well. I remember going to him about just T20 now is very stats based, and he's spot on in terms of areas you can improve, things you can get better at. That's probably something I've probably neglected, is the statistic side of cricket. So he's someone that I've gone to quite a bit in terms of where I can improve and where I can get better. He's a good boy. He's a good lad.
Well done, Tomo. Well done.
Well done, Tomo. Great question, mate.
You'll love that as well.
That for a second. What cap was I wearing in the club?
Got 2 little segments to finish. The first one is quite an easy one. It's the Breakfast Club. So I am the owner of the Breakfast Club. It's mine. That's it. You get to pick 3 people, 3 cricketers, past or present.
Wow.
That you want to go for Brecco with.
Who's paying?
Well, on one of the episodes, I talk about Netflix potentially doing a behind the grill special, so Netflix can play.
Okay.
Or Tomo can actually.
Tomo never been. Cobwebs in that boy's wallet.
Shocking.
No, so 3 players I'd love to go for Brecco with.
Yeah.
3 players, past or present. Wow. Right. First one, Herschel Gibbs, because I reckon he's got some serious stories that I could really get to know. Yeah, apparently. Herschel Gibbs, number 1. Number 2, the great man, Shane Warne. Obviously, with what happens today, I'd love to just have an hour with him, talk about cricket life. And number 3, Herschel Gibbs, Shane Warne. Number 3. obviously I said Kane Williams is someone that I'd love to, I guess, share a dressing room with. In terms of going out to Brekkie, this is a rogue one. Brian Lara.
Oh,
Brian Lara.
West Indian flair. Why not?
Yeah, because there's obviously a Warwickshire connection there. He was at Warwickshire during the 90s. And again, someone that I just wish I could see live play.
Yeah,
so probably those three: Herschel Gibbs, Shane Warne, because I tell you now, they'd have some stories.
Yeah.
It'd be funny. But also, obviously, Brian Lara, because, the player he was. That's for sure. So they're the three that I would probably choose.
Good three, that. I like it. And finally, to finish, I like to do a segment with all guests. I am a massive fan of horse racing.
Oh my God. But I've never ever watched a horse race in my life. I know what you're gonna ask me here. What would I call a horse or say? What
what would you call a horse?
I don't know.
What would you call a horse? We have one guest who loves calling animals human names. So he's got a dog called Walter. And he said he would call his horse Mark. Right.
What did Tomo say?
I can't remember what he said. His is the only one I can't remember.
What would I call a horse? I've never.
They're usually quite funny, but you could call it anything. I'm gonna have a leaderboard as well, so we're gonna get the viewers to vote on what the funniest one is.
Oh, I've got one, but it's rude. It's really quite rude. I've got one. No, I don't know. I remember we played five-a-side football, and he called us. To be fair, you could call it. We were called the cunning stunt. That's what you flip it round. But I'm not sure I could have that as a horse. I'm trying to think. Nah, I'll probably go that one. Otherwise, I'm not sure about the human names for horses. I don't know. We'll stick with that.
That'll do.
That'd be a tongue tie for the old mate trying to call the race. So recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that was one. I think one of the other lads said something like, and I wet the bed or something.
And I wet the bed's coming around the final bend.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Good question. That's a rogue one. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, the horse race. I like to throw people off. When people say, "Oh, what question can I ask?" I keep that on quiet because I just think whatever comes to your head first will be the funniest thing.
Oh, you get a few of you. I reckon you get a few people just go, "Oh, what?" Just go completely silent for about 5 minutes. Yeah. But no, good one. Happy with that.
We're done, mate. Thank you so much for your time.
No stress at all. Happy to share, happy to chat. Hopefully there was something, I guess, valuable somewhat in there, even if it's something minor. I guess that's all people listening can probably hope for. If there's something that those listening can relate to, I guess the biggest thing is that you're not alone. The same things that you go through, I go through on a daily basis. Yeah. So I guess the more people are to share their experiences, that's the only way people can get better and improve. So it doesn't matter if you're 16 playing cricket for your school or you're playing professional. The same things that you go through, I go through on a daily basis in terms of how we play and what makes us keep coming back to this great game.
Yeah. You would have hopefully helped loads. The advice you've given has been brilliant. It's been really good to have an insight into you and your game, really. And even if it doesn't, you've made my day. Like, I mean, I didn't think I started this podcast 6 weeks ago. I didn't think after 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I'd have a professional cricketer on the pod, and you've been an absolute legend, mate. So thank you very much.
No stress, brother. Honestly, no stress. Happy to help. Happy to chat. Good on you, mate. As I say.
Perfect. Guys, I will Well, I don't know if I'll leave your Insta in the description because you don't bloody use it. But
Oh, I know. Again, it's something that I probably should use more, but yeah, everyone's different. It's just not something I tend to go on, to be honest with you.
Well, keep an eye on Sam this year. I think he's gonna have a good year. And mate, best of luck for 2022.
Cheers, brother. Cheers, We'll see how we go. Can't wait to get going.
Excited.
Just waiting for it to get a bit warmer, but once it does, let's kick on. Hopefully have a good year.
Yeah. Guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.